Just gonna start this video out by saying I got my editing situation figured out. We're back to normal and let's go. What's going on YouTube? Today I bring you my number 3 power rank team for the 2021 NFL season, and as you can see by the title, that is the Cleveland Browns. This is a team that has been turned around so enormously quickly, and it's honestly really impressive by Andrew Berry, who's already made himself one of the best GMs in the NFL. And this team is just talented from top to bottom. I mean, they're scary. So today we're going to go over their roster. Before we get into that, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe. Really does help out the channel and sends it out to a larger audience. Much obliged if you do. And without further ado, let's get into the video. So starting off with the quarterback position, Baker Mayfield, it's a hot take. I like Baker Mayfield a lot. I think he's top 10. He had his best year last year, not statistically, but I mean, he was super safe with the ball. He made good decisions. He read the defenses. He did what he was supposed to do, and he was good at it. He's a top 10 quarterback to me, and yeah, I feel like he's majorly disrespected, and I don't really know why. He is good. Obviously, having that elite ground game helps him out, but like, I'm never going to dismiss a player because he has good talent around him. To me, that's just stupid. I will give a player kudos if he plays good or doesn't play as good around a horrible team like Matt Stafford and Derek Carr, but I'm not going to take away a player's own personal talents just because they play around good players. Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback. Case Keenum, we really haven't seen him play, to be honest, in 2-3 years, so I really don't know how good he would be to step in and play. I mean, obviously, 3 years ago at the Vikings, he was good, but definitely was a downgrade when he came over to the Broncos, and hasn't really played since then. So yeah, I really don't know how he'd play. I wouldn't expect anything from him. And then Kyle Loletta. He's our third string guy. So yeah, I mean, Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, top 10 guy. Sorry, not sorry. Your backups or whatever, but Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback, and I'm going to give that a B for right now. Because I do still think he can improve. We already can't speak today. I do still think he can improve, for sure. I definitely don't think he's at his ceiling, and that's the cool part about it. So then moving on to running back. I mean, just straight up in front, this is the best running back room in the NFL. Well, I don't think it's straight up in front that it's the best running back room, but it's the best running back duo for me. I mean, Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's arguably a top 10 running back, and Nick Chubb is easily a top 5 running back. In my opinion, he's the number, I'd say 3 right now. Nick Chubb is an absolute monster. He put up 1,000 yards in 14 games last year. He's one of those players where people like to, say, well, he has this super good offensive line. I don't care. Every running back needs an offensive line, and Nick Chubb just so happens to have the best in football. If you gave any other running back this offensive line, they would be one of the best in football. That doesn't take away from the fact that Nick Chubb is still a monster of a human being. Kareem Hunt as well is just the fantastic Robin to Nick Chubb's Batman, and even then, Kareem Hunt could be his own Batman on many teams in the NFL. He'd be the number 1. Honestly, he's a top 15 back, so majority of teams in the NFL he would start. So it's just extremely scary to imagine the Chiefs with Kareem Hunt. That's just oof. And they're still, top 2 is obviously, process of elimination. They're still top 2 even without him. So, yeah, Kareem Hunt, great, the best running back 2 in the NFL. I think it's pretty safe to say. And then Dearness Johnson, a pretty solid guy. And they picked up Demetric Felton, who I wasn't necessarily high on, but I think when you're a team like the Browns, you can take chances on these guys that may be weird fits. Maybe, they don't have the highest floor in the world, but when you're a team that's so talented, you can take a bet on those guys. He can play running back for you if you want. He can play receiver if you want. So Demetric Felton, was still a solid pickup for these Browns. To me, this room's an A plus. It's deep. It's got the best duo in the NFL. It's got two arguably top 10 running backs, one for sure top five. So yeah, this is a great running back room. At wide receiver, I'd say the one kind of meh room on the roster, and that's considering you have Odell Beckham and Jarvis Landry here, which is obviously still nothing to sleep on. It's just when you compare it to the rest of the offense, it is a little bit meh because Odell Beckham really just hasn't done that much in Cleveland. In his first year, he wasn't really anything special. Obviously, he was hurt last year. And I just refer to Jarvis Landry as the one in Cleveland anymore because he's just been better and stayed on the field more. That doesn't take away from the fact that Odell is still one of the most talented receivers in the game, and honestly always will be. The catches that Odell can make are out of this world, but it's just, is he the same player anymore? Maybe, but he has to stay on the field to show it. And I'm just not sure, to be honest, if the Browns are the team for Odell. Um, they're much more of a ground and pound hit over the top if it's there. And Odell is a guy that, he doesn't have that elite speed. He's someone who can go up and get it, but that's just not what Baker throws. Like we said earlier, he's a safe and good quarterback, but he doesn't just throw it up. Very common. So really, I would actually really like if the Browns traded Odell, just because I don't think he fits the team. He struggled to even stay healthy. Again, it's just like, imagine this team with Jabril Peppers. Maybe he never got to the level he is with the Giants if he's here with the Browns still, but I mean, I still just, he's not the best in the world anymore. Donovan Peoples-Jones looked pretty solid in his rookie year. He looks to be their returner for the future, so that's really nice to have. Picking up Anthony Schwartz from UAB, I liked that. I think he's going to be a solid receiver for them. Rashard Higgins, also a solid guy. Beyond them, not really anything else. But, I mean, you do still have one of the elite duos in the NFL. Maybe Odell's the same guy he was, maybe he isn't. But Jarvis Landry's still a very good receiver. Odell Beckham, still a very talented receiver. And you do have some nice young depth behind them. So this room is still going to be an A-, but it's just, compared to the rest of this offense, it's like the one kind of meh room right now. But again, like, it's still top level. At tight end, Austin Hooper kind of underperformed after the contract they gave him, coming over from the Falcons, obviously. Yeah, I mean, it just might have been the case where, he just maybe doesn't quite fit as well over here. Mayfield doesn't really like to use his tight ends in general a whole bunch, but Hooper is still a good tight end, still borderline top 10. David Njoku is a guy that could be number one on a lot of teams, but he's the number 2 here. There was a lot of talk of him being traded, and now it sounds like he's fine staying here in Cleveland, so that's great, obviously. Harrison Bryant, I thought was a pretty solid pickup from a year ago. So yeah, I mean, once again, just a nice deep room here with some starter caliber, better than starter caliber guys, and one of the best duos in the NFL here with Njoku and Hooper. So once again, it's going to be an A- for me. Not quite an A, but an A-, and there is still upside with a guy like Harrison Bryant. So yeah. And then it doesn't stop at fullback, because Andy Janovich, in my opinion, is the second best fullback in the game, right behind Kyle Juszczyk. So, the fact that they got him for, I think it was a 6th round pick, even though it's a fullback, they do use him a decent amount, and Janovich is one of the best fullbacks in the game. So, once again, that's going to be an A-. Left tackle, Jedrick Wills, was pretty solid in his first season. Obviously, he's playing alongside the best offensive line in the NFL. Again, not going to take that away. Like, you can note that and be like, well, okay, his job's made a bit easier, but still, he was still solid in his first year and is only going to go up from here. They picked up James Hudson out of Cincinnati, who I wasn't necessarily high on, but I think if you want to just kind of keep him there as some okay depth, that's a good move there by the Browns. They do draft a lot of guys that I do like. No idea who Alex Taylor is. So Jedrick Wills, James Hudson, 2 younger guys, but one played very solid in his rookie year, and the other has some upside as a nice backup. So that's going to be a C+ for me right now. Again, can still be much better, and like, it is at least one time where I can admit, like, yeah, he's definitely better because of the guys around him. Still a good room with upside. Left guard, Joel Bitonio, in my opinion, the third best guard in football, the third best interior player in football, and a top 10 offensive lineman in football. Joel Bitonio is dominant down to the letter D. The dude's just a monster. Like, he's an absolute mauler. Obviously, run blocking his forte, but no, absolutely no sleeper in pass blocking as well. I think this guy should be recognized among the league's elite, and he's really not. Joel Bitonio is an absolute monster. Michael Dunn, Drew Forby, some decent depth here as well. This is an A+ to me. I mean, he's not quite Quentin Nelson because Quentin Nelson is just a different breed. But I don't want to take that away from Bitonio because like Nelson is the type of guy that I don't care if you have the worst backup in the NFL behind him, even though the Colts are having to deal with that right now. Him by himself gets you an A+. And if A++ was a grade, Quentin Nelson gets you an A++ because that's the kind of talent he is. Joel Bitonio is an A+ player, and he is still fantastically good with some decent depth here. Then at center, J.C. Tretter, one of the best centers in the NFL. No depth here this time, but still, I mean, top 5 center, still very, very good. I'm going to give that an A-. Right guard, Wyatt Teller. There was a time where Wyatt Teller was the top guy in the top offensive lineman in football, and I don't think he's quite that anymore, obviously, but he is still, again, one of the league's elite guards, and helps make up just such a dominant offensive line. No depth here, but same thing with J.C. Tretter, A-. I mean, Wyatt Teller, fantastic guard, and maybe he returns to that 2019-18 form, which it's really hard to imagine this offensive line getting better, but Jedrick Wills is only in his second year, and Teller was once arguably the best offensive lineman in football, so yeah. And then at right tackle, Jack Conklin, borderline top 5 right tackle for me. I'd say close to top 10 tackle overall, not quite there for me, but still, again, one of the game's elite. And when you're playing next to guys like Wyatt Teller and J.C. Tretter, it just all clicks, and this offensive line is like the most dominant in football, and it's not even close, really. There are some good offensive lines in football, but I mean, they have the worst guy on this line is in his second year, and he was good in his first year. That's just scary. And Jack Conklin adds on to that. Chris Hubbard, a decent backup as well. Yeah, this offensive line, it's just so freaking scary. It's undescribable. And Jack Conklin, Chris Hubbard, going to get that an A there. I don't think it's quite worse than A+, but still an A. Yeah, I mean, and maybe C+ was even a little bit harsh on Jedrick Wills, to be honest. Maybe B- would be a bit more fair. Yeah, enough said. This offense is deadly. One of the best running backs, the best offensive line, one of the best fullbacks, one of the best tight end rooms, one of the best running back rooms, a top 10 quarterback in my opinion. Still a very solid and young wide receiver room. This offense is terrifying. And then moving on to the defense, Myles Garrett. I'm going to throw something out here that I know is going to piss a lot of people off. I've said it before, and I've gotten flack for it before. Myles Garrett is better than TJ Watt, in my opinion. He's my number one edge. I think if you had a player who put up the exact same stats, or if you had two players that put up the exact same stats, and one was a defensive end and one was an outside linebacker, the defensive end is better. Because being a defensive end is just such a tougher job than outside linebacker. To me, Myles Garrett puts up close to similar things as TJ Watt with a much more difficult job. And for a little bit, he did it on a defense that wasn't that good, to be honest. Like, he didn't have Denzel Ward and John Johnson and Greedy Williams and Troy Hill, and he's never really, I mean, he had Olivier Vernon, but like, who cares about Olivier Vernon? Myles Garrett has performed at an elite level since he entered the league. And to me, I just feel like he's the best not the best pass rusher, he's the best edge rusher in the NFL, to me. Maybe you can hate on it whatever you want, but whatever. Takkarist McKinley bounced around for a little bit until he finally found a home here in Cleveland. He does make up for, at the very worst, a decent backup defensive end over there. And then they picked up Curtis Weaver last year, who really fell in the draft because he's kind of just athleticism and nothing else. Similar to Greg Rousseau, except he's just not as dominant as Greg Rousseau. I think he holds a bit of upside, but I don't really hold that much hope for him, to be honest. Regardless, you have, in my opinion, the best edge rusher in the NFL and some pretty good depth here, a young guy you can develop. That's an A+ to me. At defensive tackle, they upgraded. They added Malik Jackson. You got Andrew Billings there. They added Sheldon Day, Jordan Elliott, who I was a big fan of coming out of last year's draft. They added Tommy Togiai as well. They picked up Marvin Wilson through undrafted free agency. And I mean, if they can develop Marvin Wilson into what he was from 2019, oh my God, can this Browns team get any scarier? I mean, and the fact that they're number 3 shows you how good the Bucs and the Chiefs are. But I mean, this defensive tackle room is good. You have a solid guy there with Malik Jackson, arguably good, and some great depth here as well, and some great young depth with guys like Elliott, Togiai, and Wilson. So, yeah, I'm going to give that a B. And then at the other defensive end room, Jadeveon Clowney, I feel like people are starting to hate on him a little bit too much. Like, when it comes to pass rush, Clowney's not it. But here's the thing. You're pairing, in my opinion, the best edge rusher in the NFL, second best pass rusher, with the best run defender in the NFL. Because I don't care what you say, Jadeveon Clowney always has and always will be an elite and arguably the best run defender, to me, the best run defender in the NFL. So you're pairing those two guys together. Like, I don't care if Clowney doesn't get the sacks. You got your guy to get the sacks already. Now you have your guy to shut down the run on the other side. So to me, like, I think it makes sense. He's only there for a year. Maybe he stays, maybe he probably doesn't. Maybe he has a good year and kind of redevelops his market, which I don't really see happening. But yeah, I think it was at least a solid pickup. Porter Gustin, Joe Jackson make up for some decent depth as well. I'm going to give that room a C+ for right now. But Clowney very well could return to kind of a similar form from a couple years ago. But at the very least, he's going to be an elite run defender across from an elite pass rusher. Then at the linebacking room, Mack Wilson, Anthony Walker, and JOK make up a pretty good linebacker core, actually. That was one of the big weaknesses of a team that really didn't have many weaknesses. And it's not that bad, to be honest. Mack Wilson, I do like. They signed Anthony Walker, who I also did really like from the Colts. And they drafted JOK in the second round, which was one of the biggest steals, obviously. He was a guy that I wasn't surprised all that much, to be honest, that he fell to the second round. Like, he was a guy that was either going to go like top 10 or fall to like the second, even maybe third round, because he's just such a specific player to where I don't know if he's really going to be all that good in Cleveland, to be honest with you, but I do think he is at the very worst a solid athletic chess piece, and he's a guy that, like, if you figure out how to use correctly, can be a deadly player for you. I think that was kind of the thing with Isaiah Simmons, was that I just don't think the Cardinals really knew how to use him correctly. I feel like they were both kind of safeties playing linebacker, and in college they got away with that, but at the NFL level it's just different. So JOK, I don't expect that much from him, to be honest, but he should still be a solid player. And also some solid depth here. They got Willie Harvey, Malcolm Smith, Jacob Phillips, and they picked up Tony Fields as well, which I think is a nice developmental piece there for the Browns. So even the linebackers, one of their more weaker positions on the roster, it's still a C to me. It is still at the very worst, a meh room, and they added some solid additions. Again, I do really like Anthony Walker, and of course, I didn't even talk about Taki, who is also a solid linebacker, so maybe I'll give it more of a C+, but that is a good room there. Just not good in terms of the rest of the team, but like, it's still a good room. Then it's cornerback. Denzel Ward has been really good since they drafted him 2018. I would have taken Chubb or Nelson first, but Denzel Ward was, not a bad pick by any means. They added Troy Hill, who I think can make up a solid number 2 here. They added Greg Newsome as well, who has a bit of that injury issue, but I do think if he kind of, gets over that, then he can be a solid 2 elite corner here with the Browns. Greedy Williams, been a guy that really just hasn't seen the field much, to be honest, but I do think he also holds a bit of an upside still. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it for the cornerback room, but you do have some really solid young players here. I think Troy Hill is a good guy for the number 2 right now until either Newsome or Williams steps up, because I do think one of them will. And Denzel Ward, an elite corner, borderline top 10 right now. So yeah, that's a pretty solid cornerback room for right now, and it's only going to get better. So I'm going to give that a B for right now. At strong safety, Ronnie Harrison. I really feel like Grant Delpit is going to be one of those breakout players this year, because I really did love Delpit coming out of LSU, but obviously got hurt last year, and I think he'll bounce back. I think he probably takes over Harrison's job week 3 or 4, and really emerges as, you know, a starter for the Browns here. So I really like him. But Ronnie Harrison's still a solid starter for right now, so I'll give that room a C+. And then free safety, they added John Johnson from the Rams, who I always thought was kind of underrated. Like, you know, he's, you know, was very good and productive in the Rams defense when he had Aaron Donald. I don't expect that to change all that much with Myles Garrett. I think he's always been a bit underrated. And yeah, so him here with the Browns, pretty good, because otherwise you'd probably be starting Grant Delpit right away, and I don't know if that's the right move, but you got John Johnson, so it's fine. And then Sheldrick Redwine, solid guy, and they picked up Richard LeCounte III out of Georgia. I wasn't very high on him, but, you know, again, just a nice young developmental type guy. Overall, free safety gonna earn a minus for right now. This defense, like, it's not quite as scary as the offense. I mean, there's a couple, you know, potential issues. Troy Hill might not be the best number 2 in the world. Linebacker's still a little weak. We don't quite know what we're getting from Clowney. You know, safety, not really a concern, because that's the thing, is like these concerns are kind of more minor, like, you know, what ifs more than anything. Once again, it shows you how extremely scary the Cleveland Browns are, and that's just, you know, still weird to say, considering just, you know, 3 years ago they had a record of 1-31 through 2 seasons. So yeah. And then special teams, kicker right now I guess is Chase McLaughlin. They cut Cody Parkey, double doink man, so I was a little surprised by that. Jamie Gillen, solid punter. Again, your kick return is probably going to be Donovan Peoples-Jones, but I mean, it can be other people as well. I guess they have JoJo Natson here. Browns fans would know who their kicker is more than I do. So yeah, and special teams not an issue for these Browns. So yeah, scary. Say scary about 20 more times team. And again, it really does go to show that the fact that a team this complete and this scary is number 3. I think the main reason for them being number 3, though, is their division coaching culture and schedule, which none is really bad, but we'll talk about that more in depth in just a second. So let's go over there. And taking a look here at their schedule. When I say that, you know, part of the reason they're at 3 is because their coaching culture schedule, whatever, it isn't necessarily because any of that's bad. In fact, Kevin Stefanski is already, you know, in my mind, a top 10 coach. I mean, just again, what he did, you know, really proved he was the right guy for these Browns. And I do think he is a great head coach. The culture is great here with the Browns. The main issue for me really is the fact of just inexperience. The schedule here is not the toughest in the world, to be honest. Like, you start off right away against the Chiefs, and that's just obviously a tough game. But you do have a lot of easy games here. The Texans, the Bears, the Lions, the Bengals twice. But here's the thing, is that, like, those division games are always going to be tough, you know, as I always say, especially the Ravens games. But, you know, even though the Steelers and Bengals won't be quite as hard, like, they're still going to be difficult. You have to play the Packers. The Raiders will also be an easy game. And a lot of these tougher games are still very winnable. The Browns could legit go 17-0. Like, I'm not going to write that out of the picture. I think the Browns are kind of the first team for me to where I could legit see them going 17-0. I don't think it'll happen. I don't think any team will really do it this year, but, like, I don't think it would not surprise me that much for the Browns to be only the 3rd undefeated team through the regular season, to my knowledge at least. Just the Dolphins and Patriots, correct me if I'm wrong. They can very well do it. I just don't see it happening. And I think when you have the 2 other teams with, you know, the Buccaneers and the Chiefs, it's just difficult for me to put the Browns above them because at the end of the day, I think they can make that run, but I don't see them completing it just because like this would only be their second year in the playoffs of the last like 10 years and only their third time in the last 20. So like while I do love the team, it is stacked top to bottom in terms of roster. I do love the coach. I love the culture. It's not the hardest schedule in the world, especially for such a talented team. I think at the end of the day, inexperience is going to get them to them this year, but I can really see the Browns truly going for it once and for all next year. They're still at number 3 here because I don't necessarily predict them to go all the way this year. They very well can, though. It's all in place. I just think at the end of the day, inexperience gets to them. But these Browns are a scary, 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 once again, as I said, add 100 scaries to that team. And just shows how even more scary the Chiefs and Buccaneers are, but the Browns are right behind them, and I could very well see them going all the way this year. But that is my video. That is today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like Scott, Jesus Christ, that is not how we do our outro. Let's restart that. If you guys did enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the notification so you get the gist of it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see all you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.